Long ago, in the sacred forests that whispered with Vedic chants and echoed with the footsteps of sages, there lived a woman whose presence radiated light, not the light of fire or the sun, but the gentle, glowing light of inner purity. Her name was Anusuiya. She was born in an age when dharma was alive in every leaf, every river, and every breath. From her childhood, Anusuiya was known for her calm nature, her quiet strength, and above all, her absence of envy or hatred. Her very name, Anusuiya, meant one who is free from jealousy. As she grew, her fame for compassion and wisdom spread. And in time, she was wed to sage Atri, one of the revered Saptarishis, the 7 great sages chosen to preserve and transmit the knowledge of the cosmos. Their life together was not one of luxury or fame. It was a life of deep meditation, of selfless service, and of pure love. They lived in a humble hermitage deep in the forest, surrounded by students, animals, and seekers. The trees were their walls, the sky their ceiling, and silence their music. Anusuiya served her husband with devotion, but not with submission. She was his equal in knowledge, in virtue, and in inner strength. She tended to the ashram, welcomed guests, taught women disciples, and guided the young with the love of a mother and the mind of a sage. So powerful was her purity that even the gods in heaven took notice. And with that divine attention came a test that would become the greatest turning point in her story. The test of the goddesses. Far above, in the celestial realms, the goddesses Saraswati, Lakshmi, and Parvati began to hear of Anusuiya's fame. She was spoken of with reverence not just by sages, but even by celestial beings. Her name was whispered in the courts of gods. People called her the most virtuous woman in the world, even greater than the goddesses themselves. Naturally, their pride was stirred. They turned to their divine husbands, Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva, and said, "If she is truly that pure, test her. Let us see if her virtue stands against a challenge no woman can overcome." The gods agreed, not out of arrogance, but to reveal the truth of her greatness. So they descended to earth, disguised as wandering ascetics, old, wise-looking men with matted hair, wearing bark and simple robes. They reached Anusuiya's ashram while sage Atri was away. Anusuiya greeted them with warmth and humility. "Please," she said, "come in. Rest. Let me offer you food." The sages said, "We will accept your alms, but only on one condition." She smiled. "Name it." They said, "You must serve us the food naked." A pause fell over the forest. The animals grew still. The wind seemed to stop. It was a test so sharp, so cunning, that any ordinary mind would have been trapped, torn between the duties of a host and the dignity of a woman. But Anusuiya was no ordinary woman. She saw through the disguise. She understood the divine play. Her heart remained unshaken. Her mind was still. She closed her eyes. With the power of her tapasya, her inner fire of spiritual purity, she transformed the 3 gods into infants, innocent babies, incapable of mischief, free from all conditions. Then, with motherly love, she bathed them, clothed them, and fed them with her own hands, as if they were her own children. The gods, now babies, cooed and laughed in her lap. Heaven trembled. Back in the celestial realm, Saraswati, Lakshmi, and Parvati saw what had happened. Their husbands had not been insulted, they had been blessed. And they, too, realized the true power of Anusuiya, not in defiance, not in pride, but in divine motherhood. They came down at once and begged her to return their husbands to their true forms. Anusuiya smiled, nodded gently, and did so. Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva stood before her once more, not with pride, but with folded hands. "You have shown us what no one else has," they said. "You are the embodiment of purity, the very form of unconditional love." They offered her any boon she desired. And what did Anusuiya ask? She said, "Bless me, that I may have you 3 as my sons." And so it was. To Anusuiya were born Chandra from Brahma, Dattatreya from Vishnu, and Durvasa from Shiva, each carrying the divine spark of the gods, yet each raised by her, under her love, her guidance, and her unwavering discipline. The legacy of Anusuiya. Anusuiya's story is more than a tale. It is a message. She showed that a woman's strength is not in resistance or rebellion, but in unshakable inner truth. She faced the highest challenge with clarity. She protected her dignity with calm. She turned judgment into transformation and testing into blessing. She became the mother of the Trimurti, something no one else has ever achieved. She became a living ideal of motherhood, fidelity, wisdom, and dharma. Even today, her name is spoken in reverence. In the hills of Chitrakoot, her ashram is a sacred pilgrimage site. Streams are said to flow where she prayed. Flowers bloom where her feet once walked. She is remembered not as someone who followed, but as someone who uplifted. Not as someone who obeyed, but as someone who embodied truth. Anusuiya, the sage, the mother, the fearless soul, lives on. Not in temples, but in the hearts of those who value devotion. Not in stories alone, but in the very idea of what it means to live a life of purpose, humility, and light. She reminds us that dharma can never be broken by challenge, that love can never be shaken by pride, and that true power lies in stillness, service, and soul.